Hello and a very good, well, whatever it is, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I can't believe that I am late for my own show and I'm still setting things up. So this is one of the lights and hopefully I will look a little bit brighter in a moment. I just need to plug it in and put the adapter there. So let's just see how that works. And if that works, I think that's better. Marvelous. So some people are on there and I'm very pleased. Let's just go to the comments and see if anybody is there. Apparently the quality is not so good. I hope you can still see me. And I don't think I've ever rushed as much into a show as I have today, but I'm here and probably one of the craziest, some of the craziest few months of my life have are now past, and life is getting a little bit easier and has some more regularity. So, hello, Silvina, wonderful to see you. Hello, Jackie. Lovely. Some people from England. Let's see if anybody is here from other countries and a few more people signing up. I did send a reminder of the show a few days ago, I think on Sunday, but I did not send it to the usual list of the Reiki Academy in London. So it's probably a few less people here today, but it's great. There are a few people and that's amazing. Hello to Finland. It's really, really nice to be here to connect. And France as well. It's getting more and more international. And I am in, I was about to say sunny California, but it's the opposite. It's rainy California today, which is so nice. Isn't it interesting what sometimes a day can make of a difference? If there had been a day like that in autumn last year, a day of whatever, 12, 14 hours of constant rain, it would have been much less likely for the wildfires to spread as crazily as they did in January. So sometimes, yes, we are very dependent on things. And well, the question is whether we can even collectively raise our energy to a point where even these interferences from what seems to be the outside are getting less, because we feel more connected. I really feel that when we raise our vibrations, we can change so much. We can change the world. We can change our families, our workplace, the atmosphere there. We can change society. We can change what I would call international society. And we can have an effect on so many other things in the world. Something I didn't really understand until I learned more about energy theory, about quantum physics. And of course, it's all connected. Everything is interconnected. Now that I've started talking, my mom said, you shouldn't tell that to everybody, but now that I've started talking to crystals, that I've started to communicate with crystals and feel these vibrational levels, of course, there is an interaction. There is an interaction of everything on this planet and in the universe. So if something changes for the better, if we lift our vibrational levels, we can make such an impact. It is just unbelievable. We are such powerful beings. And I was wondering what to talk about today. And we can get to some questions at some stage as well. But what came to me is to kind of just go on about the vibrational levels and how much we need to get prompted enough to raise our vibrations. I mean, how can we raise the vibrations in the world? There are so many ways to do that. There is simply loving kindness, this amazing principle of loving people for what they are, as loving people, for being spirit, for being connected, for being with us, for just sharing a little piece of the path we are walking, and to walk it together. So loving kindness, to be kind, to share things, to have understanding, to have empathy, can raise vibrations to an incredible level. And not only does it make the world a better place, but it also makes us happier and healthier. A friend of mine, David Hamilton, once, quite a few years ago, wrote a book called Why Kindness is Good for You. And he put all the scientific research together into the kinder we are to other people, the happier and the healthier we are. And that is a scientific fact, but also it, of course, points to the truth that we are all connected. And this is, well, the foundation of really being who we are, even individually, because the individual existence is not the ultimate existence. On a deeper level, we are all connected. And isn't Reiki just this incredible tool to help us understand this, to help us experience this through sending Reiki over a distance, even in a timed way, sending it backwards and forwards, to give Reiki to somebody else. And of course, when we receive Reiki, when we give Reiki to ourselves, to just feel this incredible connection. So Reiki really raises our vibrations, and through us, it raises the vibrations around us. So how did we get to Reiki? Probably through some difficulty, something that prompted us to change, to look in another direction. And sometimes we don't want. And then the universe applies somehow some pressure to get on this path and to get into this trajectory of changing. What I find so interesting, I try not to talk about politics, but this isn't politics. This is world history that I'm talking now. Of course, just a few days ago, a basic agreement was reached between Israel and Hamas about Gaza and about ending the conflict. It is a very broad outline, but it is something that not only people in Gaza and in Israel have hoped for 2 years now, well, in fact, for much, much longer. But also the whole world was just so in shock about all these horrors that happened in connection with this conflict. And of course, we all know that there are different elements and how this started. But it took 2 years and several attempts of mediation, of negotiation, of an unstable temporary truce, and then this was broken again. So why did it work this time? Working to a degree that there is now an agreement with a lot of international backing, simply because there was too much pressure. And the pressure was, of course, to a certain degree from within, just with the two main parties involved in this situation. But there was also unbelievable political pressure from outside. So isn't that interesting? Do we feel there should be pressure? And yet, aren't we so relieved that this has been achieved and agreed? So maybe we need pressure if there is no other way and we don't do things ourselves. I had my bankruptcy, and that was my pressure. That was my pressure of changing the way I lived, the way I looked at the world. And it was a lot of pressure for a very long time. But it brought me to where I am today. So if we do not change from the inside, we need the pressure. And I do feel, in fact, that the universe is giving us the pressure, hopefully with a positive outcome, but often we resist to pressure and then things get even more difficult. So this is so interesting. It only came to me about 15 minutes before I started to talk about that. And I really feel this is not about politics. I really feel it's about us and how we are. So why is it so difficult often to reach an agreement? Because we need to let go of some of what we want. We need to reach a compromise. And it's interesting how I find that over, or how I realize that there is less and less, I find, willingness to compromise. And I'm not just talking about the political level anywhere in the world. I am talking about us in our lives, how we want to live, how we want to follow a certain lifestyle, a certain tradition, being surrounded by people with other ideas about a lifestyle, other traditions they have been brought up into or they have come to embrace. So where does that lead to? It leads to a society, it leads to even families and circles of friends splitting up because of the lack of compromise. So the question is, can we compromise? And there's something that really, really resonated with me, but I'm not so sure, thinking back, whether it resonated with me when I heard it for the very first time. And I would like to share a little story, and I know that there will be a lot of people who will be watching this at a later stage, and I feel it's really, really interesting. A few years ago, I was sitting in my little flat in London, and I had a friend over who is a psychic medium. And I was writing. I was working on my last book, and I felt often very guided. And I told her that, and she said, "Yeah, I know. There's this guy standing in the corner." And I was looking in the corner and didn't see anybody, but she did. So she is quite incredible with her psychic abilities. And she described this guy as like wearing a long coat and I think a hat. And he said he looked very regal, very a man of stature, of standing. And I did feel the presence. I just couldn't see it. So at some stage when she was there again, I told her that I was working on a particular chapter for the book about theodicy, the theodicy question, the question about the righteousness of God. It's very interesting. It's a theological question, and it's about basically the fundamental question: why is there so much suffering in the world if there is a God? Why does God allow this? And this has pretty much been a question that was with me all my life. And so we were talking, and she said, "This guy is there again." And he says he's working really with you. And I could agree to that, because I really felt while I was writing to be very guided. And she said, "Oh, it's the professor here again." She called him a professor. And I hope I get the timeline right, but ultimately the story is exactly how it happened. So she called him a professor, and then at some stage she said, he tells me he is not a professor, but I call him a professor anyway. He is very, very intellectual and academic. So when I was then started to question who that might be, the name that came to me was Leibniz. Well, which is very funny. In Germany, there's a very famous biscuit cookie called Leibniz. And this is made by a big company in Hanover. And I Googled it. And Leibniz is one of the most famous people from that city, Hanover. And he was a philosopher. He was also the father of modern computer science. We are talking about 18th century here, 1750s, 1760s, 1780. And he was a diplomat, and he was an academic, and he was a law lecturer, and he was offered a professorship, but he refused it. And I thought, wow, this really is quite some proof. So this was the person, and still is the person, I often feel the presence, who has been helping me with this particular question, because he published many, many papers. And he published many ideas. But there was one specific small leaflet that he wrote about the theodicy question, the question of why there is so much suffering in the world if there is a God. And I thought that was so interesting. But all this is really just the background to what I wanted to say. So I then started to research a little bit about his life, about his ideas. And I came across a quote. And the quote was, I'm roughly paraphrasing. Let me just try to remember it correctly. The perspective of the other person is the right one. The viewpoint of the other person is the right one. And first I thought, this is pretty radical, because I often feel that my perspective is quite right. And often everybody who knows me will agree that I think that. And that, of course, means that it's not just I have an idea and I know it's right, but it's a long process, often getting to a certain viewpoint, and I feel this really makes sense, this is right. But there may be somebody else, there may be many people who have a different viewpoint. Are their viewpoints wrong? Well, from their perspective, they are right. And I feel this is a starting point to understand that from their viewpoint, the other person is right. So in order to understand that, we need to understand their viewpoint. We need to understand why they see things as they are. We need to understand their upbringing. We need to understand their background, their history, their culture, their education, their experiences. So we need to understand that in order to understand their viewpoint. And even if we do not share the viewpoint, from their perspective, it's the right viewpoint. But once we understand how they got there, and in this light, we reflect how we got to our perspective, we can start trying to find common ground. And we may have to do that by decluttering, by taking more and more out of what we want or what we believe. and see, so where is the common ground? And if the common ground is two human beings being on this planet at the same time, meeting up, this is already a lot of common ground. So we can really bring it down further and further and further. So, of course, bringing it back to politics, it's people from different ethnicities, different religions living together in the same area. And if we bring that together, or if we bring that down to, well, they're both human beings. We are both human beings. We have a starting point. How can we make life workable, decent, prosperous, happy for both of them, both of us, for all of us? And sometimes we need pressure to do this. And sometimes we just need an inspiration. And I would love to invite you to do a little exercise. I would like to bring in Reiki and do one of my favorite exercises, Reiki Ho, guided by spirit. And let's just allow Reiki to surprise us. I would like to invite you to bring your hands together in front of your heart chakra and connect to Reiki. And just close your eyes and feel the connection. And then just ask, is there something in my life at present I need to compromise on? And how can I do that? And then just move up to your third eye and see what comes into your mind. And then just bring your hands down and for a moment just place your hands on your heart or on your heart chakra and just let Reiki flow and let this resonate in your heart. Then just take a moment to thank Reiki and come back into the here and now. That was so interesting, something I didn't expect that I got. I hope that you also got something maybe a bit challenging, but just know that Reiki is there to help. This is why you got this idea. You got it now, connected to Reiki, and Reiki will help you to find the compromise to achieve this. And this is just so interesting. I was speaking much longer than I anticipated, but I feel this was a very, very important topic. And I'm so pleased that you are here, that you are joining, that you are listening, that you are holding this in your heart and are taking the time every week to come together, to be grounded in Reiki, and to then raise the vibrations, raise our vibrations, and by doing so, the vibrations of the people around us and of the world. But of course, we are always doing a Reiki share here together. And I would like to invite you to join the Reiki share now. Of course, not just everybody who is here live at the time of this broadcast, but also at a later stage, everybody who is joining in a replay. You will still feel the energy, and we will feel the energy now already. This is quantum physics. Everything is connected. So when you're ready, I would like to invite you to just connect to Reiki and feel the connection. And then just set your intention to connect with everybody else on this Reiki share now and who is joining at a later stage in a replay. If you've learned Reiki 2, you can use the connection or the distance symbol, whatever you call it, it's the same symbol, and just draw that for a moment. And just feel the connection with everybody and let Reiki flow. And if you just got a really challenging message or suggestion about finding compromise, bringing compromise into your life, into a certain situation you're in, just ask Reiki now to help you with that, giving you the strength, the momentum, the confidence, the connection, the love that you need. If you have a physical problem, just ask to get help with this problem. Just feel the flow of Reiki, feel it grounding you, healing, lifting your vibrations, opening up more intuition, insight, and love, opening our hearts. And then you can bring your hands back together, take a moment to thank Reiki, and come back into the here and now. What a really lovely, peaceful, gentle, grounding Reiki share. It was really interesting. It felt different from me. It felt very deep and just what I needed. So I'm sure that everybody receives or received what they needed. And I so look forward to seeing you again next week. Just to remind everybody, there is this new training program I've been working on, Reiki Crystal Healing, which combines Reiki and crystals, but in a very unusual, intuitive way, the way I am using crystals with Reiki myself. And you can find this in the emails I've been sending out. It's until Sunday, still at half price. And so if that is something that interests you, please make sure that you take advantage of this offer. If you are in London or in fact anywhere in the UK, of course, you can do live courses on that as well. And the next course is early December. So I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so, so much for joining today. And again, I just need to find the right button to click, and I wish you a great rest of the day.